I never meant to snoop. That's the honest truth. My wife, Clara, and I had been married for 12 years, and I'd always trusted her implicitly. She was the kind of person who left her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter, who laughed at my terrible jokes, who made our little suburban life feel like a quiet adventure. But that day, last Tuesday, I think it was, something shifted. It started with a spilled cup of coffee and a borrowed laptop. I'd been working from home, hunched over my ancient Dell in the study, when the mug tipped. Dark liquid seeped into the keyboard, and the screen flickered before going black. I groaned, knowing I'd have to wait for IT to send a replacement. Clara was in the shower, her voice drifting through the house as she sang off-key to some old pop song. Her laptop sat on the dining table, sleek and silver, practically begging me to use it. She won't mind, I muttered to myself, grabbing it and settling onto the couch. The screen blinked to life, and I opened a browser, intending to log into my work portal. But something caught my eye. A tab already open, minimized at the bottom. The icon was unfamiliar. A stylized O in purple and white. Curiosity tugged at me. I clicked it and a site loaded, OnlyFi. I'd never heard of it. It looked like some kind of social platform, but not one I recognized. The profile on the screen wasn't Clara's name, though. It was Lila Bloom 92. My first thought was that she'd left a friend's account logged in. But then I saw the profile picture. It was blurry, taken from an odd angle, but the woman in it had Clara's chestnut hair, her sharp jawline. I squinted, leaning closer. The bio read, "Living my truth, one day at a time. No regrets." It sounded like something she'd say. She'd always been poetic like that. My stomach twisted. Was this hers? Why would she need a secret account? I hesitated, my finger hovering over the trackpad. The shower stopped, and her singing faded. She'd be out soon. I could close it, pretend I hadn't seen it, and go back to my day. But that little purple O stared back at me, daring me to dig deeper. And fool that I was, I did. I clicked on the profile before I could talk myself out of it. The page refreshed, and a feed loaded: posts, photos, little snippets of text. My heart thudded as I scrolled, half expecting to see something mundane. Something that would prove this wasn't Clara's secret world. But the first post stopped me cold. It was a photo of a sunset over a lake, the water rippling gold and pink. "Peace at last," the caption read. I knew that lake. It was Lake Marion, an hour's drive from our house. We'd gone there last summer, just the two of us, for a weekend getaway. I'd taken a picture almost identical to this one. My mouth went dry. I scrolled again. Another post, this one a quote. "Sometimes you have to let go to find yourself," posted 3 days ago. Below it, a comment from someone named Echo Wanderer. "You're so brave, Lila. Keep shining." Lila. The name echoed in my head. Clara had never mentioned a Lila, but that profile picture, it was her, wasn't it? I clicked on the photo gallery next, my hands trembling slightly. There were dozens of images. Some were abstract, blurred flowers, rain-streaked windows, but others were personal. A shot of a coffee shop I recognized downtown. A close-up of a hand holding a book, the nails painted a deep burgundy. Clara had worn that exact shade last week. I leaned back, the laptop heavy on my knees. This wasn't a friend's account. This was hers. But why hide it? What was OnlyFi anyway? I heard the bathroom door creak open, and panic shot through me. I minimized the tab just as Clara stepped into the living room, her hair damp and a towel wrapped around her. "Hey, Han," she said, smiling. "What you're up to?" "Just borrowing your laptop," I said, forcing a grin. "Mine took a coffee bath." She laughed, a sound so familiar it almost hurt. "You're hopeless. Don't break mine too. Okay?" She padded toward the kitchen, humming again. I watched her go, then looked back at the screen. The tab glowed quietly, a secret between us now. I could ask her about it, clear the air. But something held me back. What if there was more to this than I could handle? I maximized the tab again, my curiosity a live wire I couldn't unplug. I couldn't stop myself. The tab glowed like a beacon, and with Clara clattering dishes in the kitchen, I dove deeper into Lila Bloom 92's world. I clicked on the messages section, my pulse racing. The inbox loaded, and a list of names appeared, none I recognized. Echo Wanderer was there again, along with others. Silverthread, Nightle7, cryptic handles that felt like code. I opened the top thread, from someone called Shadowkey. The message was short, dated 2 days ago. Did you get it? Check the drop. Time's running out. My breath caught. The drop? What was that supposed to mean? Clara's reply, Lila's reply, was even stranger. Got it. Safe for now. Need to move soon. Move? We weren't planning to go anywhere. Our life was here, our house, my job, her part-time gig at the library. I scrolled up, but the thread was sparse, just fragments. A week earlier, Shadowkey had written, "They're watching. Be careful." Clara had responded with a single word, "always." I sat back, the room tilting slightly. This wasn't just some artsy side of her I didn't know about. This felt clandestine. Dangerous, even. I clicked another thread, Echo Wanderer this time. The tone was warmer. "You're inspiring me, Lila. Can't wait to hear about the next step." Clara's reply, "Soon. It's almost ready." Ready for what? My mind spun with possibilities, none of them good. Then I saw it. A photo buried in the gallery, posted a month ago. It was dark, grainy, taken at night. A figure stood under a street lamp, face obscured by a hood. The caption read, "The key is in place." My stomach dropped. I knew that street lamp. It was 2 blocks from our house, by the old oak with the crooked branch. I'd walked past it 100 times. Had she taken this? Was someone watching us? Clara's voice snapped me out of it. "Want some tea?" she called from the kitchen, cheerful as ever. I slammed the laptop shut, my heart hammering. Sure," I managed, my voice too tight. She poked her head out, frowning slightly. "You okay? You look pale." "Just tired," I lied, forcing a smile. She nodded and disappeared again. I reopened the laptop, the screen glaring back at me. Whatever this was, it wasn't innocent. And I had to know more before she caught me looking. I couldn't confront her, not yet. Clara was pouring tea in the kitchen, steam curling up from the kettle while I sat with her secret life burning a hole in my chest. I reopened the laptop, quieter this time, and scrolled back to that photo under the street lamp. The hooded figure seemed to stare back at me, faceless but somehow accusing. I zoomed in, squinting at the blurry edges. There was something in the figure's hand, a small, dark object. A phone? A package? It was impossible to tell. But the oak tree in the background was unmistakable. This was our neighborhood. Our life. I clicked back to the messages, my fingers shaky. Another thread caught my eye from Nightle7, posted just yesterday. "Heard you're close. Don't trust the new one, too many eyes." Clara's response chilled me, "I know. Cutting ties tomorrow." Cutting ties? With who? My mind raced. Was it someone at the library? A friend I didn't suspect? Or worse, me? I shook my head. That was ridiculous. She kissed me goodbye that morning like nothing was wrong. But then I found something else. A post from 2 weeks ago buried in the feed, the signal set. Waiting for the green light. Attached was an audio clip, just 10 seconds long. I hesitated, glancing toward the kitchen. Clara was still humming, oblivious. I plugged in my earbuds and hit play. Static crackled, then a low voice, not hers, muttered, "Location confirmed. Proceed when ready." The clip cut off. My palms were sweating now. A signal? A location? This sounded like something out of a spy novel, not my wife's quiet existence. I pulled out the earbuds just as Clara walked in, 2 mugs in hand. "Here you go," she said, setting one beside me. Her eyes flicked to the laptop. "Work stuff." "Yeah," I lied, snapping the lid shut again. "Just catching up." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. For the first time in years, I wondered what she was really thinking. She sat across from me, sipping her tea, and I mirrored her, the warmth doing nothing to ease the cold knot in my gut. After she went upstairs to change, I reopened the laptop. I had to know what the drop was. Whatever Clara or Lila was hiding, it was bigger than I'd imagined. And I wasn't sure I was ready for the truth. The house was quiet now, Clara upstairs folding laundry or reading, one of her usual routines. But nothing felt usual anymore. I sat with her laptop, the OnlyFi page glaring back at me, and decided to search for the drop. I typed it into the site's search bar, filtering results to Lila Bloom 92's activity. A single post popped up, dated 3 months ago, drop secured. Next phase begins. No photo, no explanation, just those cryptic words. Comments below were vague, "Congrats, Lila," from Echo Wanderer, and "Stay sharp," from Shadowkey. I rubbed my temples, frustration mounting. What was I even looking for? I switched tactics, Googling OnlyFi instead. The results were sparse, a niche platform, invite-only, marketed as a space for creators and freethinkers. Nothing about drops or signals. It sounded harmless, but Clara's post screamed otherwise. I went back to her profile and clicked followers. There were only 47, a small circle. I scanned the list, hoping for a clue, when a name stopped me dead, Redhawk13. I knew that handle. Not from Clara, but from me. 2 years ago, I joined a local hiking group online. Redhawk13 was one of the regulars, quiet, always posting photos of trails and gear. We'd met once, briefly, at a group meetup. A tall guy, bearded, unremarkable. Clara had come with me that day. Had she connected with him here? My stomach churned. I clicked his profile, but it was locked, private to outsiders. A creak on the stairs jolted me. I minimized the tab as Clara appeared, her hair tied back, a book tucked under her arm. "I'm heading to the porch," she said. "Join me." "In a bit," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. She nodded and stepped outside, the screen door clicking shut. I exhaled, reopening the tab. Redhawk13's presence gnawed at me. Was he Shadowkey? Nidal7? I went back to Clara's messages, searching his name. Nothing. But then, in a thread with Silverthread, I found a line that made my blood run cold. Red knows too much. "We need to redirect." Clara's reply, handled. "He's out." Out of what? The hiking group? Or something bigger? I glanced at the porch where Clara sat reading, her silhouette calm against the dusk. She looked so normal. But I was starting to wonder if I'd ever really known her at all. The porch light flicked on, casting Clara's shadow across the lawn as she turned a page in her book. I watched her through the window, my mind a tangle of questions. Redhawk13 knew too much. About what? I needed answers, and OnlyFi was my only lead. I turned back to the laptop, diving into Lila Bloom 92's posts again. I scrolled past the cryptic quotes and photos, hunting for anything concrete. Then I found it, a video posted 6 weeks ago, titled Step 1. It was short, barely a minute. I grabbed my earbuds again, my heart thudding as I pressed play. The screen showed a shaky view of a forest trail at twilight, leaves crunching underfoot. Clara's voice, unmistakably hers, whispered, "It's in place. No turning back now." The camera panned to a metal box half buried beside a tree, its lid glinting in the fading light. Then the video cut off. I replayed it, pausing on the box. It looked like a geocache, something hikers might use. Was this the drop? I knew that trail. It was part of the state park near Lake Marion. We'd hiked it together last fall. Had she hidden something then, right under my nose? I opened a new tab, searching geocache Lake Marion. A few hits popped up, hobbyists logging finds, but nothing matched that metal box. This wasn't a game. It was something else. A notification pinged on Clara's screen. A new message from Shadowkey, "Green light tonight. Meet at the usual." Tonight? I checked the time, 7:42 p.m. She hadn't mentioned going anywhere. I glanced outside again. She was still reading, or pretending to. My hands hovered over the keyboard. Should I reply? Pretend to be her? Before I could decide, the screen door squeaked. I slammed the laptop shut as Clara stepped in. "Getting chilly out there," she said, rubbing her arms. "Think I'll head to bed early." She paused, eyeing me. "You sure you're okay? You've been glued to that thing." "Just work," I said, too quickly. She tilted her head, studying me, then shrugged. "Night, then." She kissed my forehead and headed upstairs. I waited until her footsteps faded, then reopened the laptop. The message stared back at me. "Green light tonight." She was lying. She wasn't going to bed, she was going out. And I was going to follow her. I sat frozen, the laptop's glow illuminating my clenched hands. Clara was upstairs, supposedly asleep, but that message, "Green light tonight," echoed in my head. She was going somewhere, meeting someone, and I couldn't just sit here wondering. I had to know. I grabbed my keys, slipped on my jacket, and muted the laptop before shutting it. The house was dark now, save for the faint hum of the fridge. I crept to the stairs, listening. Silence. Backtracking to the kitchen, I scribbled a note, "Ran out for milk. Back soon." A flimsy excuse, but it'd hold if she woke up. I hesitated at the garage door, then grabbed a flashlight from the junk drawer just in case. Outside, the air was crisp, the street quiet. Our car sat in the driveway, untouched. If she was leaving, she hadn't yet. I ducked behind the hedge by the garage, my breath fogging in the chill, and waited. 10 minutes passed. 20. My legs cramped, but I didn't move. Then I heard it, a soft click from the back door. Clara emerged, dressed in black jeans and a hooded jacket, a small backpack slung over one shoulder. She glanced around, her movements quick, deliberate. My chest tightened. This wasn't the Clara I knew. She slipped down the path toward the street, heading for that crooked oak and the street lamp from her photo. I followed, keeping low, my sneakers silent on the grass. She didn't take the car smart if she didn't want me to notice. At the corner, she turned left toward the edge of town. The state park was that way miles off, but so was downtown. Where was the usual? I trailed her, staying a block behind, my flashlight off but ready. She moved with purpose, checking her phone once, the screen's light briefly catching her face. Focused, almost grim. She crossed into a quiet alley near the old hardware store, and I lost sight of her for a moment. Panic flared. I jogged to catch up, peering around the corner. There she was, standing under a flickering neon sign, talking to someone. A man, tall, shadowed. I couldn't hear them, but her gestures were sharp, urgent. He handed her something small, glinting. A key? My mind flashed to that video, the metal box. Whatever she was into, it was happening now, and I was too deep to turn back. I pressed myself against the alley wall, the rough brick cold through my jacket. Clara and the man stood just 20 feet away, their voices a low murmur under the buzz of the neon sign. I strained to hear, catching fragments. On schedule. From him. Can't risk it. From her. The object he'd handed her. A key, I was sure now, disappeared into her pocket. My flashlight felt heavy in my hand, useless unless I got closer, but I didn't dare move. Not yet. The man shifted, his face briefly lit by the sign. Bearded, tall. Red Hawk 13? Could have been him from that hiking meetup, but the light was too dim to be certain. Clara nodded, then checked her phone again. 10 minutes, she said, louder this time. He muttered something and walked off, vanishing around the corner. She lingered, scanning the alley. I ducked lower, my heart pounding so loud I swore she'd hear it. But she turned the other way, heading deeper into the maze of backstreets. I followed, keeping my distance. The alley twisted, lined with overflowing dumpsters and rusted fire escapes. She stopped at a chain-link fence, glanced around, then slipped through a gap I hadn't noticed. Beyond it lay a vacant lot, overgrown with weeds, and in the distance, the faint outline of the state park's tree line. Was that where she was going? I squeezed through after her, the metal snagging my sleeve, and crouched behind a crumbling wall. She knelt in the weeds, unzipping her backpack. Out came a flashlight, hers clicked on, sweeping the ground. Then she pulled out something else, a small shovel. My breath hitched. She was digging. The key, the box, the drop, it was all coming together, but into what? She worked fast, dirt piling beside her, until a dull thunk sounded. She reached down and lifted that same metal box from her video, brushing soil off its lid. Headlights flared suddenly, cutting through the lot. A car, black, unmarked, rolled up slow, stopping yards away. Clara froze, then stood, clutching the box. The driver's door opened, and a figure stepped out, too far for me to see clearly. Lila. A voice called low and firm. She didn't move. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a meeting she'd planned. She was in trouble, and I was the only one who knew. I crouched behind the wall, the damp earth soaking my knees, as the figure from the car stepped closer to Clara. The headlights cast long shadows, turning her into a silhouette clutching that metal box. Lila, the voice said again, sharper now, a woman's voice, clipped and cold. You're late. Clara's flashlight wavered, but she squared her shoulders. I wasn't expecting you, she replied, her tone steady but edged with something. Fear? Defiance? The woman laughed, a dry sound. Plans change. Hand it over. Clara hesitated, gripping the box tighter. Not until I know it's safe. The woman took another step, and I caught a glimpse. Short hair, a dark coat, something glinting at her waist. A gun? My chest seized. This wasn't a geocache drop or some quirky hobby. This was real, and it was bad. I fumbled for my phone, debating 911, but the signal bars blinked empty. The lot was a dead zone. Clara shifted, her voice dropping. You said no one else knew. The woman smirked. I could see it now, her face half lit. And you believed me? Sweet Lila, you're too trusting. She reached out, impatient. Now. Clara's eyes darted, and for a split second, they flicked toward my hiding spot. Did she see me? My breath stopped. Then she moved, fast, tossing the box into the weeds and bolting toward the trees. The woman cursed, lunging after it, and I saw my chance. I broke cover, sprinting after Clara, my flashlight bouncing uselessly in my hand. Twigs snapped underfoot as I hit the tree line, her hooded figure just ahead. Clara! I hissed, risking it. She stumbled, whirling around, her face pale in the dimness. You? She started, shock widening her eyes. Before she could finish, a gunshot cracked behind us. We both dropped, my arm over her, the forest swallowing the sound. The woman yelled something, her light sweeping the trees. Clara grabbed my wrist, whispering, "Run, now." We scrambled up, weaving through the pines, her backpack slapping against her. My mind raced. Who was she? What was in that box? But one thing was clear, we weren't safe. Not here, not yet. And whatever she dragged me into, there was no going back. We ran until my lungs burned, the forest a blur of shadows and snapping branches. Clara pulled me behind a massive oak, her breath ragged, her hands still gripping my wrist. The woman's flashlight beam slashed through the trees, distant but closing. "Clara," I whispered, "what's happening? Who is she?" Her eyes met mine, wild and searching, like she was deciding how much to say. Then she exhaled a shaky sound. "I didn't want you in this." "Too late," I said, my voice hoarse. "The box, Amlify, what is it?" She glanced back, the light nearer now, and yanked me lower. "It's evidence," she murmured. "Proof they've been watching us, everyone. I've been feeding it to the group." My head spun. "Group? What group?" She swallowed. "Amlify's not just a platform. It's a front. Whistleblowers, activists, we use it to leak what we find. That box has files, recordings, government stuff they don't want out." I stared at her, the pieces clicking too fast. Lila Bloom 92 wasn't a persona, it was a mission. "You're a spy." She shook her head. "No. Just someone who got tired of lies. I found out at the library classified docs misfiled tracking programs. I couldn't ignore it." Her voice cracked. "Red stumbled onto it too. I had to cut him out, he was reckless." The woman's voice cut through the dark, closer. "Lila, you can't hide." Clara tensed, then pressed something into my hand, the key from her pocket. "If I don't make it, get the box. Give it to Echo Wanderer. Promise me." Before I could argue, she stood, shouting, "Over here." She bolted left, drawing the light away. A decoy for me. I didn't think. I ran back toward the lot, the key biting into my palm. The box lay where she'd thrown it, glinting in the weeds. I grabbed it, ducking as the car's engine roared to life. Tires crunched gravel, the woman was leaving, with Clara or after her, I couldn't tell. Sirens wailed faintly, finally coming. I clutched the box, its weight a lifeline. Later, at home, I opened it, drives, papers, a note in Clara's handwriting, for us. For truth. She didn't come back that night. But the files did, online, viral, thanks to Echo Wanderer. My wife wasn't just Clara. She was Lila, a hero I'd never known. And now I'd finish what she started.